What's up, my dudes? My name is Schrute, and in this video, I'm just going to be talking about the possibility of a Reflex 2, so get ready for it. I'm about to rant on for a day and a half, so yeah, man, Reflex 2, would that not just be a dream come true, man? I'm rhyming like a mother right now, so, but yeah, man, Reflex, they may not call it Reflex 2, but just something that's a little more like how Reflex used to be, but a little less how MX vs. ATV Supercross is, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people probably agree with me on that. That's all I'm looking for, man. Just something a little more like Reflex. I just want something closer to it, man. But if they could just make something titled a Reflex 2, you know how much sales they would get off of just titling it Reflex 2, but that'll probably get into a bunch of copyright crap because it's not even the same company that was there when they had Reflex there, which explains a lot. But yeah, so that's kind of where they're at, man. But I would be all over a Reflex 2, so and that's kind of a big deal. That's why I think that MX vs. ATV Alive and Supercross was so different, because they couldn't take any of the elements from Reflex because it was all like licensed to the THQ or whatever, so they couldn't make a game that was really similar to that. And if that's the case, that's a real bummer, because that pretty much means we'll never get anything that was close to a Reflex. But yeah, man, I don't know what they need to do. If it's not about like a licensing deal and they can just basically make another Reflex, what they need to do is just make something that's better graphics, which, I mean, Reflex looks okay still to this day, but what they could do is just make something that's a little bit better graphic, something that basically has the really close to the same kind of style of how you lean, and I'm talking really similar, like pretty much the same, okay, as Reflex. That's the one thing they don't need to change very much at all, is the way the bike feels, the way the rider feels, the way the rider moves. All that stuff was perfect, dude, perfect. So that's kind of a couple of things that they don't need to touch, man. They should have never tinkered with that ever. That was like spot on. But I would like to see a different game at the same time, something that's close to a Reflex, but something that's different, because I don't just want to play another Reflex. Like, I do in a sense, but like I would rather it be somewhat different. So, I mean, they can tweak a little bit on the actual physics side of it, but I'm talking so minute you can't even see it through a microscope, like something like that, man. So that's kind of where I'm at on it. But yeah, so they could go in there and make it to where maybe, for instance, like, you know how in Reflex where you can change how quick you turn the handlebars and how much you can, like, I think there's like a lean feature possibly. I don't know. There's like something you can adjust in the actual like tuning of the bike where you can adjust how quick the bike turns and all that stuff. They could add kind of a level above that where you can turn even quicker and lean even more, and kind of just more of a, I know I'm trying to turn Reflex into simulator here, but that's really not what I'm trying to do. But or either just simply have it to where you can lean further back or lean further forward or lean more to the side, so you have a little bit more control over the bike than what Reflex had. Even though I think Reflex is perfect, it would be interesting to have something that's close to Reflex, but a little different at the same time, you know? Like almost exactly like Reflex, but something just different and refreshing and cool, but nothing like Alive, nothing like Supercross. Okay, let's stay away from those. So, yeah, that's my plan. That's what I want to see, but I don't know, man. I think the biggest thing that the MX versus ATV series has going for them is the Reflex style, the Reflex physics, but also the other big thing is the actual the like rut system that they have with these games, with Reflex anyways, was amazing. I mean, that was awesome, man, how you could really change the track throughout riding the track. That's something that MX Simulator even has trouble with competing with, because it's not the same on MX Simulator, and that's a really big aspect to motocross, is the track changing lap by lap. So that's one of their biggest aspects that they have going for them. So if they could really get down in there and refine that and make the rut system and all that just perfect, make it to where you can make like big ruts and small ruts, and some tracks don't really make ruts. Some tracks make these kind of ruts and those kind of ruts. You see what I'm saying? So, and like actually be able to make rough bumps and stuff. That's kind of an aspect they really didn't have so much of in Reflex. I mean, you can make ruts and you can make bumps too, I guess, but it's not like you're making choppy enough bumps that it really makes that big of a difference. For me, I would like to see it to where some tracks it makes a really big difference. Some tracks, like I'm saying, it not make that big of a difference. But for instance, you could have like a hard, dry kind of track or a really perfect dirt, you know, red clay dirt kind of track, and both of those kind of tracks would somewhat hold up pretty good. But like for instance, go in there and have a sand track or a more of a kind of loamy style motocross track, and that way those kind of tracks could rut up a lot and get a lot of rough braking bumps and acceleration bumps and stuff like that. That would be really cool to see. So that's kind of the other thing I would want to see. And just yeah, that's basically it, man. I mean, just make it as close as you can to Reflex. That's all there is to it. And could you imagine though, just for the like stigma that Reflex has had in the motocross gaming genre, I mean, just could you imagine if they made a Reflex 2? Just the title would sell, I mean, just ridiculous amounts of copies, you know. So but if they put that title on it, they got some pretty big shoes to fill if they're gonna make it different, you know. Like if you go in there and make a Reflex 2, it's going to be hard to top Reflex 1. Basically impossible, but I'm not saying it can't be done. But from what I'm seeing from Supercross and Alive, I'm not really hopeful at that point. But I don't know, man. It's kind of a long stretch at this point. I don't know where they're going with it, but I think they have some plans for a new motocross game, MX vs. ATV. So, like I'm saying, even if it's not called Reflex 2, it could still be something really cool and really close to Reflex. Surely by now they've learned from the community and what we want. I don't know, man. I just don't know how they can stray so far away, but that's one of those things, man. That's kind of a wonder of the world, man. I don't see how you go from Reflex to Alive and then to Supercross on top of all that. It's just like, how is that even possible? But yeah, I don't know, man. Like I'm saying, that's my real big theory on it, is that I think there's some kind of like license deal that they couldn't take any elements from Reflex. You know, they couldn't go in there and dive into the old school archives and figure out how they made that, all of the physics and stuff, so they kind of had to start from scratch with Alive. I think that's kind of how it went, man, but I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe they just, surely people are not that ignorant to what other people want. You know, by the time they made Supercross, you figured they would have been somewhat closer to Reflex, but no, they're just farther away. So I don't know, man. I'm just waiting to see. We'll see. That's all there is to it. But it would be cool to have all different kinds of bikes. Don't just give us a 125 or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, give us a 50, an 85, a 125. I mean, heck, even like you could go 50, 65, 85, 125, 150. Then it would be like 250, okay, and then you got 350, okay, and then 450, and then 500. They need all of those bikes in there. That would be sick. I mean, somewhere in that range of like 50 and 65, you might be able to kind of put those in one. Whoa, I'm going off the track there, but that's going a little far, wanting a 50 and a 65. I mean, we're not all little kids playing this game, but it would just be like cool, like fun, you know. You could go race on the 65s instead of the 50s. Like, that would just add so much more to it. But for me, I would rather them keep the big trucks out of it, and all that just gets kind of weird. I mean, it's fun. Like, it's fun to mess around. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of what MX versus ATV has always been about. But look at what we got with Supercross. Like, basically nothing. So, I mean, if they're only going to put dirt bikes in it, I want all the dirt bikes. That's what I'm trying to say here. So, like, I want all of them. 2-stroke, 4-stroke, 10-stroke, all of them, bro. So, like a 500 2-stroke, that'd be so much fun. But, yeah, man, that's what I'm looking forward to, and we'll see. So, I just hope they get those physics down, and at least, like I'm saying, even if it's not Reflex 2, whatever the heck it's called, hopefully they're not going to call it Supercross 2. That would be crazy. But, yeah, I'm thinking that they need you've got to have Supercross and motocross tracks from day one. Like, what is this only having Supercross tracks and then bringing back some of the old motocross tracks from Alive? And, like, what the crap is that, man? This is not... What is this? This is not 1990. Like, we need new tracks, new motocross tracks, new Supercross tracks, and differences within those. And, like, please stop rehashing stuff from older games. That's horrible. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm looking forward to, and we'll be seeing soon, man. I don't know if they can figure it out, but we'll just have to wait and see on that. But yeah, I mean, as far as like the trail tracks, that would be cool to actually see normal trail tracks instead of like just waypoint. Some of those didn't, I don't know, at least in this Reflex, they were somewhat like a trail track, but not really. It wasn't like a real tight style of a trail track. It would be cool to actually see some of that going on. And then you got things like those bigger ball haul, kind of, you know, through the sand and the beach and something cool, crazy like that, like a bigger style of a trail track, like a ball haul 1000 or something. But I would like to see some of the more standard, smaller, tighter kind of trail tracks too on it. So, but also just cool different style of motocross tracks, cool different style of Supercross tracks, maybe even some hybrid tracks thrown in there. That would be sick. And then the straight rhythm thing, yeah, I don't know. Like, they could throw in one of them or whatever, but that's not a, I don't know, there shouldn't be a whole, like, series on straight rhythms. That's kind of weird. I don't know why they wanted to do that. I'm thinking it's for simplicity's sake. They just wanted to make one straight of a Supercross track instead of making more Supercross tracks, but I don't know. But that was kind of around the time where the straight rhythm thing was all popping off and everybody was going crazy about that, so maybe that was why. I don't know, but yeah, so that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. And if they can get all that dialed in right and get it really similar to the way Reflex felt, but slightly different, maybe a slightly more control over the bike, like pretty much identical, but just a little more control. That's all I would really want in it. And I mean, I feel like Reflex has perfect control, but just maybe, I don't know. I mean, a side of me doesn't want them to change it at all, but a side of me is like, man, I don't know. Just, like, do we really want the same game again? I mean, we got Reflex. Like, what, you know? I don't know. I feel like it needs to be tweaked just slightly to where it feels different, but the same at the same time. So, that's pretty much what it is. So, anyways, I appreciate all of you watching these videos, and I'll keep on making them.